Thanks, Kunal. It's still very early. I hope you're all up and fresh, and hopefully we're all having a very good day together. Thanks for having me. Also, thanks for letting me speak first. Every time I go to a conference, I feel it's good to speak early because most of the people have said what you're going to say if you speak in the afternoon. But I think the whole setup, I think this afternoon or this day today is quite well choreographed, because I think I can give you a bit of a general view of what's happening in the world of marketing, communications, or branding, and how that affects also brands in your industry. And I think later on you have a lot of good speakers to show you how this really comes to life in the real world. So hopefully we'll have a very good day together. So I called my session Marketing Innovations for Brands in the Digital Age, simply because I think, and you probably all know that yourself, that a lot of the things we used to do as brand marketers and marketing folks in the last, I don't know how many years, I think is being questioned, is changing. And I think it's quite exciting times to be in marketing and to be a brand marketer, because you have so much more opportunities to do new things and to do innovative things. And I think with digital and all the new platforms that are out there, there's just a hell lot of innovation that we can bring to the world of marketing. And I think some of the marketers that we work with, I think they're still in denial. They still hope the world will remain the way it is, which it clearly won't. And a lot of other marketers that we work with, I think they embrace it head on. And I think we're in a time where we definitely don't have all the answers. There's a lot of questions, but I think the brave, I feel, will be rewarded greatly. And I think a lot of our clients are now putting a lot of effort into spending money on innovation, doing things they haven't done before, and really experimenting and learning, and then more and more putting these innovations into the mainstream and into what they do. Definitely, we're not saying, forget everything you've done. There's still, I think, the bread and butter that we need to do, and a lot of the fundamentals of building a brand and doing marketing haven't changed. But there's just so much opportunity out there. So I just want to show you a few things that we feel are important. And to me, as I only have 30 minutes, we have to focus on a few things. But in the packaged goods industry and in the FMCG industry, I think we have become very product-centric in the way we communicate. And I think in this new world, which is much more transparent, I think brands have to have a bigger purpose, and they have to stand for something. And those brands that do are generally more successful. And I show you a bit about what I mean with that. Also, I think we've done a great job in interrupting people's lives for many, many years. And as we're moving more and more into a content world, we have this term that we call dynamic content, that as brand marketers today, we have to not just do the traditional stuff, we also have to really become content publishers and really see how we can develop content on the go and all sorts of different contents, and be with consumers in a much different way than in the past. I'll talk about that in a second as well. And then a third point I want to talk about, when you're in kind of exposed to digital, I'm sure you've heard these terms many, many times, paid, earned, earn, which will remain there and will be very important. But I think there's also a lot of opportunities today to do very interesting things with your products and drive innovation and actually create content with and around your products. Call it made media. I show you a few examples about that. So the first part, I want to talk about strategy innovation as we move from really more dull product-centric communications to having a look at brands, how they can really have a purpose, how do they, what do they stand for in people's lives, and kind of take them to a higher level and to a higher ground. We have a term that we call big ideal. The L dropped a little bit and the S wasn't like that before. That's what's happening when you convert Keynote into PowerPoint. You know, we've been talking about big ideas for many, many years in our industry. And obviously, as clients or as marketers, that's what you want from your agencies. But we have this term that we call big ideals, which basically means taking a brand to a higher ground, to a higher level. And when we talk about big ideals, what that means is it's basically a belief system that we build that drives everything a brand does. So I think it will become more sensible when I show you some examples. But you know, there's two things that we usually look at when we develop those big ideals. One is what's the cultural context or the cultural tension that your brand operates in, and what's the brand's best self. So on the left side, we're looking at in a country or in this world, is there a tension or is there something that is relevant in today's terms that your brand can address, a tension that your brand can help to overcome. The second one, when we look at the brand's best self, we look at what is your brand really good in? What is the one thing that you can stand for, that you can possibly claim yourself? And those two, we usually then combine into a big ideal where we say, okay, if this belief comes to life, what can your brand contribute to that? And I give you one example from Coca-Cola, for example. They look at the cultural tension simply, there's too much negative news in this world and people don't have a positive outlook in life. And what Coca-Cola is really, really good in is Coca-Cola can enhance the mood of people all over the world. So Coca-Cola's big ideal is Coca-Cola believes the world would be a better place if we saw the glass half full and not half empty. This is a very kind of high noble aspiration, but this is really everything is driven that Coca-Cola does under this. So anything that happens in Coca-Cola that Coca-Cola does in terms of marketing and branding has to live up to that. So open happiness, which is kind of the big platform that Coca-Cola drives, stands under this, and everything else that Coca-Cola does stands under this. And this is not a positioning, it's really a belief system. So this should also drive what Coca-Cola does internally, what Coca-Cola employees do, what their suppliers do, what their bottlers do. So it's a bigger belief that drives the entire business. And I think it's very important for brands to have that in today's world, because it is really a guiding principle for whatever you do. Another one that I want to show you is for Dove. Dove is a brand that has done incredibly well in the past few years, and it's a really old brand. It's a 60-year-old brand, and Dove's big ideal is Dove believes the world would be a better place if women were allowed to feel good about themselves. Every woman wants to feel good about themselves, but basically they realized there's a big tension that women's have a lot of pressure by looking up to those beauty ideals and try to fulfill something they can never achieve. So Dove believes, why don't you just feel confident in what you are and who you are? And that really drives everything that Dove does as well. And it has become, this is nothing that you change every year. This is something that Dove has been working with for the last 15 years. And really every single piece of work that gets developed around the world, you can hold against that sentence, and you will actually probably immediately say, yes, this makes sense. And this has become so ingrained in on the client side and also on the agency side that anyone who works on it really, I think, has the ambition to fulfill that higher mission. So I show you a few things that Dove is doing, but before I show you, let me...
I'm a forensic artist, work for this.
Who hasn't seen that? Anyone has seen it before? Many people haven't seen it, okay.
Drafting board. We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your jaw.
My mom told me I had a big jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
Kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
I would say I have a pretty big forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm going to ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm going to ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create, and that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter, sadder too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and the friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
So this video supposedly is the most watched branded video in the history of mankind. I think last year had about, I don't know, how many, 200 million views or something, 250 million views on YouTube. And when you look at it, it definitely holds absolutely against the big ideal I showed you before on Dorf. I think it's very insightful. It's probably quite touching for women, maybe also for men. And it's just a very insightful piece of work. And that is, you know, what Dorf does on a higher brand level. Obviously, Dorf also has to sell product, so there's a lot of other work. This is not the only thing that Dorf does. There's a lot of product work that we do to push individual products, individual product variants, but this kind of sits on a higher level to really provide meaning and context for the brand. And this has been not just a very watched piece of content, it also has been a highly engaging piece of content because people really felt with it and people really got touched by it. And one thing I want to show you now is another short video that we did about how this thing became as big as it became. Because a lot of people think you do like a funny video and you put it on YouTube and then 200 million people will come and watch it. That's not how it works. There's actually a lot of work behind it, and there's a lot of media behind it, there's media spending behind it, there's social behind it. These things today are highly choreographed and planned and strategized. So we often go to clients who say like, give me a viral video, and I give you like Iwan Kwai. And then they think they will have a huge success online. That doesn't work like that anymore. These things need support, these things need to be planned. So let me just show you this to give you an idea of how you actually develop a piece of content and make it big. So this was like a global effort, and what it also shows you is that you can still develop a piece of work that runs across the globe if it's on a big kind of human insight. We didn't do a Chinese version, we didn't reshoot it in China, we literally just put that video with Chinese subtitles on the Chinese video sites, and we had 40 million views in China as well. So why having purpose-driven brands is important? Because it adds to your brand equity, and that's something that we're all looking for, especially as FMCG marketers. And you know, there's a lot of work and a lot of research that has gone behind this, but you can prove that purpose-built brands are more effective and more successful in the marketplace than other brands. And you know, not just in the short term, in the long term, even with our friends at Miller Brown, they study how these brands perform against non-purpose-driven brands in the marketplace and in the financial markets, and they're about 46% more effective or 40% more successful than other brands. So there's a financial benefit to it, there's a branding benefit to it. So if you manage a brand and if you have a brand, I think it's very important to really look at it. You know, don't just worry every day about tactics and the next best thing. Think about an ideal and higher purpose that your brand can own, and how you can support it and how you can support it over time. The other thing I want to talk about is about content, because everybody now is talking about content, and I really think it is very important that we start to think as brand marketers, maybe more as content publishers than anything else, because today you're not just have your job done doing a TV commercial and a print ad. There's a lot more you can do to really bring your brand to life and to get your consumers engaged with it. We have a term that, again, PowerPoint keynote transformation made it blur. We call it dynamic content. But the three words that I think are very important there are that A, it's seamless, it's optimized, and it's on demand. So what that means is that we develop content kind of on the go, based on what conversations take off, what are topics that your consumers are interested. And what it also means is that this requires a lot of work behind the scenes to really understand what your consumers think real time. So through social media measurement, through analytics, through data analytics, that we actually know what kind of content is interesting, what kind of topics are interesting, and then we're able to really develop content on the fly based on what is interesting and what is you know, important to your consumers. This requires a lot of change in how we operate, because if we are supposed to publish content on a daily basis, it requires a lot of changes in your structure and our structure, because A, we have to develop the content, we also have to get it approved, we have to get it through the system, and we have to be really able to pull the trigger on a piece of content, on a piece of news with 8 hours turnaround, which I think a lot of companies are not set up to do, and maybe a lot of agencies are not set up to do either. So this is, I think, a big change in how we operate as marketers and as agencies. And some people always say this is not necessarily true, but I still kind of think roughly it's true, because I think looking at content in a more broader way should allow you to spend less money on paid media if you do it right. And hopefully, if you do it right, it also should be driving more ROI for your brands. So I think the whole notion of, which I think in China still exists a lot, that you produce your 15-second TV commercial, you put it on CCTV, and you spend 100 million RMB, but maybe you can spend just 80 million RMB on CCTV or even less, and look at a different way to engage with your consumers. And I think, especially in a place like China where social media and digital is so strong, I think you really should look at how you look at media and the effectiveness of media. And this is something that I feel is very, very important. When you look at content, I think there's kind of different angles of content that you can look at, because as a content marketer, it's not just doing a fancy big kind of 3-minute video. I think there's a lot of other content that is even more important, or that has to support that big piece of content. And the way we look at it is kind of 4 different quadrants, where we look at magnetic content, which is like the big kind of famous stuff. We look at immersive content, which is stuff that consumers really want to engage with, stuff they want to play with, they want to go deeper, they want to know more. We look at smart content, which is stuff that is just smart because it answers a specific question, or it really is in the right place at the right time, or it's driven by a lot of insights in your consumer, so it doesn't need to reach 100 million people, but it reaches the 2 people that you really want to reach in the right way. And the last one is practical content, which I find often quite interesting, because more and more when we go to clients and talk to them about, what do you have in terms of content to explain your product? What we find with many clients, that they have hours and hours and years of content to really that's sitting in people's desk, or that hasn't been used in many years, that they have, that they could use to do amazing stuff, but they just don't know how to use it. Or the content is so boring that people will fall asleep as soon as they watch it. So, but what we do is we can source this content, we can look at it, we can see how we can re-edit it. There's lots of possibilities to do, I think, a lot of amazing stuff without spending more money or creating new stuff, to simply repurpose things. I can give you one example. A food client of ours, we were talking about, it's a food seasoning product, and we were talking to them about creating something like an online cooking show or something to show people how to use the product. Which is said, oh great, wonderful, yeah, let's do it. So we started looking at how to do that, and kind of once we had finalized to shoot the whole thing and spend a lot of money, we found in their archives that they had like hundreds and hundreds of hours of cooking shows that they've done in the last, I don't know how many years, not really cooking shows, but they got consumers to cook as focus groups. They had, moms or housewives come in to cook their favorite dishes, to talk about them. So when we saw that, we said, a lot of this stuff we can just use and re-edit and make it really interesting. So in the end, I think we spent, I don't know, 20,000 RMB to re-edit the content that they had, and we had, I think, 20 hours of content that we can put on social media. So look in your own archives, is there some interesting stuff you can find. When you look at magnetic content, that's the kind of stuff that we would call magnetic content, what you saw before. There's other magnetic content. I don't show you this. You might have all seen it before. Have you seen it? Who hasn't seen it? Everybody has seen it? You all like it? Who doesn't like it? Hands up. Anyone doesn't like it? Everybody likes it. When you think about this piece of content, it's a product demo, okay? It's actually an amazingly simple product demo, and it's super impactful. I wish more people would dare to do stuff like that, because it's really very straightforward and just amazing, and people just want to watch it. Another thing, which is maybe a mix of magnetic and immersive, I can show you, is something that we've just done for KFC in China, which is also quite interesting because it shows you how you can look differently at stuff. So usually what KFC has done in the past is that, on a kind of regular basis, because it's a retail-driven business, they had to promote new menus or new promotions and stuff like that, but it was always like one promotion, one menu at a time. So this time we said, why don't we just bundle it all together, take 15 product innovations, 15 new menu items at once, and create like a big piece of content and use this as a campaign over a couple of months to get people involved, to get people engaged, to get people to find out more, to play with the brand. So we got these 4 celebrities to kind of own specific product lines. I think one was responsible, one for snacks, one for drinks, one for burgers, one for rice. So each of those owned a specific category, and they had to kind of get consumers to follow them kind of to promote their menus. So it had a big web platform on Tencent where they asked people to join them. It also had a lot of other content that we developed when we started the campaign. So obviously we had TV, we had a lot of online video, we had mobile, we had lots of other content, but I think the most interesting part is that about 40% of the content that we were supposed to have for this campaign we didn't have when the campaign started. Because we said, let's just see how it works, let's see which content is more successful, let's see which celebrity gets more followers. And when we started the campaign, everybody was very sure about who wouldn't be the most successful person, which was this Momo woman. Obviously, at the end, she became the most followed one because we're always wrong. So she got the most followers, she had the most support. So we ended up doing a lot of additional content after we launched the campaign with her to get people more into the whole campaign. I'll just show you one quick film.
默默，为了要更有活力一点，我们等一下试试看看，边唱边跳啊。
那可不可以示范一下？
那个谁啊，示范一下。
管管。
随便了。
金缕虾，又，这个骨肉相连，
坏导演，背书啊，给点情绪好不好？
不是这样，边唱边跳不会啊。
金缕虾，又，
那我们酷一点，不要笑，多一点态度。
哪儿找来的替身啊？
我女儿。
导演，不如这回我们试一点不一样的吧。 金缕虾，多层次才诱人，骨肉相连，这么吃才带劲。楚味烤翅，藏不住的火辣，让人欲罢不能。来赞我的初味小18，尝尝够出味的劲爆口感，就在肯德基小10新品，一口就要你好看。谢谢，
这我也办得到。
吴莫愁已经加入肯德基超强新卖家大比拼，赞他就上 KFC Star 到 QQ.com。
我
等你来赞。
Anyway, so there were lots of those. There were also lots of shorter ones for all the 4 celebrities, and this campaign has been going on for a month now, or a month and a half, and really got amazing results. And when you look at what KFC used to do a year ago only, I think there's a lot of change, a lot of shift in how they look at engaging with consumers in today's world. This is a thing which I would call smart content. I don't know if you've ever seen this, something we've done for British Airways in the UK. Very simple, it's a billboard that basically recognizes the plane that flies on top of it. There's a lot of data behind it, how you understand which plane that is. But you know, I think today there's lots of ways to do very interesting things just using data and using live data to develop content. Something I think a lot of people are just starting to experiment with, but this stuff is highly powerful. And this is obviously just a big thing, a big billboard. I think in an online environment you can do it even more real time and much bigger and much broader. Another thing, I don't show you this, but this is, for example, practical content. This is something that we're doing for Nestle, where we created a program for pregnant moms, because pregnant moms want to know a lot of stuff. So rather than spending lots of money on above-the-line stuff, we're really trying to get moms into Nestle very early on, engage with them, and you know, provide them with relevant content, connect them to other moms, create a community, and like that have engagement. So this is kind of how we look at content, and I think there's a lot of very interesting and innovative things you can do. I don't have a lot more time, but I'll show you one more thing, a third area that I think is something that you all should look at, and you should maybe think what you could do more with your products to develop interesting experiences with your products and services around your products. There's so much stuff that can be done with technology today at fairly limited or fairly affordable costs. There's lots of stuff we are doing with clients like Coca-Cola, for example. One thing that you see, that red thing on top, is like a refill station where you can refill your phone. So you buy a Coca-Cola and at the same time you can top up your SIM card on your phone, because a lot of kids, when they have prepaid cards, they run out of airtime, and basically once you buy a Coke, you engage with a brand, you could get additional content. Lots of other interesting stuff. I just show you one thing that we kind of looked at doing for Huggies. So it's like a very simple idea, and this is just a prototype that we developed. But I think, kind of amazing how you can use technology to answer a lot of very basic questions and provide some utility and services to your consumers that will get them much more involved with your brand. And this kind of stuff, ties into e-commerce, it ties into social, because it tells you when you run out of diapers. It also has the ability to analyze the baby's poo, so it can tell you if your baby's healthy and stuff like that. So I think the point is, all of you are probably responsible for some product, to really look at how you can use technology and how you can use digital to maybe create something new and create something that really engages consumers with your products and your brands. Won't show you this one. These are really the three kind of big points I want to make in 30 minutes. So 3 things you should remember. The first one is to maybe allow your brands to have a bit of a higher ground to own and a purpose, which I think is very, very important. And it's something, you can think about on a country level, not just on a global level. Obviously, it's great if your brand has it on a global level. But we're doing these kind of big ideals, not just for global brands. We're also doing it for brands with a specific, ambition in China, for example, which is very important, especially for multinational brands. And the second one is to really look at how can you look at content and the content you put out there in this world, to really think a bit more like a publisher. How do you create stuff that people actually want to see? And someone said about content and dynamic content that dynamic content is really good when you actually don't realize it's marketing. And you know, we're all consumers as well. Nobody wants to watch some stuff where they get sold some product for 90 seconds or 3 minutes or whatever. We want to see stuff that's entertaining, that provides some value, that maybe gives me a smile. So I think that is very important to look at how you develop content and how you play in that area. And then the last one is to really look at technology and to see how you can create new stuff out of your old stuff, or how you create new stuff around your old stuff, because there's amazing possibilities to engage with consumers in ways you've never really done before. So that's all from me. I know Pete will be next, and he will show you a lot of great things that I mentioned in real life, how Mondelez is doing it. They're doing a lot of interesting stuff. So if you have any questions, I don't know if we have time for questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, ask when there's a break. Thank you, and I don't know, MC Kunal, over to the next person.